come this way on the first time around, and maybe know some of what's going to happen in the ultimate end.
So this then, by that statement, is prophetic. Okay? By the way, there is some aspects of this that are prophetic. But the word here, look at the last two Hebrew words in this phrase, in the following of days, and there's two different ways that that could be understood. One of them is as in the next day or the next item or the next thing. So this could be, this is what's going to happen to you next. Mm-hmm. Although the context of the rest of the chapter implies that this is going to be what, starting now on into your future and your tribe's future.
All of it's prophetic.
Yes. So the second way to look at it is, again, the future as in many generations or after many generations. So either one is can easily be translated that way from the Hebrew language to the English language. There is a sense, especially when it comes to Judah, there is a sense in which we're dealing with a messianic prophecy. Some of them, there's very little prophetic implication to it. Very little.
Mm-hmm. But still, there's more than enough there. Genesis 49 is I firmly believe it's the proof that God doesn't change his mind. Everyone will use the Exodus 20, I forget what it is, where Moses and God are arguing.
Right.
Say God changes his mind, and it's like, no,
he doesn't.
This was spirit breathed. Mm-hmm. It's all come to pass.
Yep.
It was all prophecy. Mm-hmm. God didn't change his mind. He had an interaction with Moses just like a parent would.
Correct.
I oughta. Okay, I'll go fix it.
And in fact, God did not change his mind. He caused Moses to change his mind. It was a technique.
Yeah, that's a parenting technique.
Correct.
But anyway, this has a lot of value for that alone.
Right. So this is a catalog then of Jacob's predictions, and in some cases his wishes, and in some cases his, well, to his chagrin, things are going to turn out that way. So the historicity of what will be said here actually demonstrates that quite a bit of this is indeed prescient. Not all of it, but quite a bit of it. So, anyway, that which shall befall you in the last days, what will happen when you, in the following of these days, or the days, is a literal from the Hebrew. But look here at verse 2. It says, gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. So this is it's interesting to observe that God blessed Abraham. Abraham blessed his son Isaac, who in turn God blessed Isaac. He then blessed Jacob. Isaac blessed Jacob. Supposed to go to Esau, but he blessed Jacob. He did give a blessing to Esau, but it wasn't a good one. But this is almost like a tradition of one generation to the next, giving a blessing onto that next generation. And you see here, Jacob is now blessing his sons, and in some cases, it's a little bit cursing. 2 cases, it's quite a bit cursing. Anyway, it says, "Hear ye, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father." The verse 3, "Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, the excellency of power." You see, Reuben is Jacob's firstborn son. He's the firstborn of Leah. His name means sea. Leah is battling over Jacob, battling with Rachel, and wants Leah, the first wife, supposed to be it's not supposed to be a wife, but she ends up as the first wife. Rachel, the one he wants, ends up as the secondary wife. And she, in this battle, says, "See, a son." That's what the word Reuben means, is see. Take a look. Pay attention. Now consider that in context to later Jewish history, Jewish law. There was in Deuteronomy 21, there's a law laid out that says, if a man has 2 wives and he loves the one and hates the other, does it sound familiar here to Jacob and Leah? I mean, Rachel and Leah. If he hates the one and loves the other, but the firstborn is the hated wife's son, he cannot take away his birthright blessing. He must pass it on, even though that's the hated wife, and give him a double portion over the loved wife's first son. So that was, I think, hearkening back to what went on here between Rachel and Leah. So that it states here that you are my firstborn, my might, the beginning of my strength. What is he talking about there? In a Jewish mindset, the strength of a man is in his sons.
Not only his legacy, but his ability to work the field.
True, his legacy and his ability to work the fields, but even more than that, he is passing along himself in training up his sons. And that's instructive to us. That is very instructive to us. We are to pass along ourselves in the training up of our sons. And by the way, daughters too. But under Jewish tradition, this is where his strength is. Not just his sons, but his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren and so on. So the excellency or the overflow or excess of. So he's telling Reuben, you're the guy. But look at verse 4. You are unstable as water. What does that mean?
Water's always moving. Water can't stay in the same place.
Water can't corral itself.
Right.
It has to be corralled by other means.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yes. So what does he say? You shall not excel. Notice in verse 3 again, the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, the excellency of power, and he reuses that same word here, excel, referring back to the to excellencies here, you will not excel. Why? Because you went up to your father's bed, then defiled it. He went up to my couch. The word there for not excel is the Hebrew al-tatar, which is you will not have the preeminence. Even though you're the firstborn son, even though you're the one who should, you will not have the preeminence. And it's in the hifil, which is a causative, and it is in the imperfect, which means it's ongoing. And from this point, well, even before this, Reuben being the firstborn, throughout the tribes, Reuben was never in charge in Israel.
You're going to talk about that word water?
Okay, go for it.
It's got a few different names, or a few different uses. It was water, but euphemistically it was also urine, semen, wastewater.
Okay.
It's what was found in the bucket. It's not a glowing. It's not saying like you're the many waters. It's you're the.
That's why I can't find it.
You're all over the place.
So what is the word there? Is it Shammai? Is it Mayim? It is Mayim. Okay. So that word Mayim, that's what I was fixing to look up. Mayim is the same word. The first issue of that word is in Genesis 1. And it is the waters. God, the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, the Mayim.
But in the context,
I understand.
Yeah.
But the word there is in the dual. Always, the IAM ending is in the dual. And so, yes, it has a lot of connotations in Hebrew. Unstable as water. I did not look that word up. Phos. And it's an adjective, and that adjective, insolent or undisciplined.
Lustful is another rendering out of the Strong's.
Reckless, boastful, being wanton, undisciplined. Yep. Vain or light. You are, yeah. This is not a pretty thing that Jacob is telling Reuben. This is not a pretty thing. What's even worse, I mean, Reuben raped his, I don't know what you call it, his dad's other wife. Even though she was a secondary wife, that doesn't matter, it's rape. But what's interesting is Bilhah is Rachel's handmaid. There is an essence in this that is also a rivalry between Rachel and Leah involved here. There is an essence of potential revenge, that this might not have been as lustful as some might think. The guy is at late teens, early 20s, so it could be interpreted as lustful. But it is more likely interpreted as revenge because of who Bilhah is. Well, look at verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitation. This is Jacob's second and third son. Simeon, Shimon, Shema means hear, listen. You have Levi, Levi means to join. And these two, the only thing he has to say about them, well, he has a little bit more, but instruments of cruelty are in their inhabitations. How'd you like your dad to talk to you like that? Under the auspices of a blessing. Son, you're a cruel person. Well, what was this all about? He and his brother, in revenge for their sister Dinah, yep, they not only destroyed the perpetrator,
but destroyed the city.
but the entire population, all men in the city.
Yep.
Almost seems unjust.
It's like it's like taking a nuclear bomb after a minor infraction. Only that wasn't a minor infraction,
no,
but it was.
It's like if Russia killed one of our agents, one of our ambassadors, we nuked the whole of Russia.
Right.
It'd be wrong.
Yeah. So, anyway, it was not at a moment's notice either. This was a planned, premeditated process.
Yep.
Look at verse 6. O my soul, come not thou unto or into their secret. Unto the assembly of my honor be not thou united. He didn't want to know anything more. This is so egregious. For in their anger they slew a man. Oh, it was more than a man, but it was against Shechem and then all the men of Shechem.
Mm-hmm.
In their self-will, they digged down a wall. Now, I don't know where they get this phrase, dig down a wall, from. The Hebrew says they hamstrung oxen.
Yeah. Mine says, and in their self-will, they hamstrung an ox.
Yeah.
So the Young's literal has, and in their self-will, eradicated a prince, and so they're rendering that as the ox as the prince of Shechem.
Right. Yes. So that makes sense.
I like that rendering.
It's interpretive, though.
It is.
It's not translative, it's interpretive. But then a lot of translation is interpretive.
But it does kind of, I'm surprised, it does go against Young's literal
translation
theme.
Well,
That's in the name.
his literal isn't quite as literal as I had previously thought it to be.
Yeah. I like it, but
Yeah. I do too.
Yeah, the Tyndale says the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, into their sepulchres come not my soul, and unto their congregation be my honor not coupled. For in their wrath they slew a man, and in their self-will they houghed an ox.
They what?
They houghed.
They hoed it.
Hoed it up.
Hoed.
Okay.
That means hamstrung. That's the word hoe.
Okay. Yeah, the spelling is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But now, notice, compare that now back to the last phrase of verse 5. The instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. That is, again, a literal rendering of that is weapons of violence are their swords.
Wow.
I've noticed over time a conflict between, or it's not a conflict, it's an internal struggle between literal interpretation or translation and an interpretive method. I love going to the literal and then trying to discover from the literal what the idiom is, if there is one present. If it's translated with somebody's opinion about the idiom, then you have no recourse to go anywhere else with it. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not. But I'd rather get a literal and find out what's real and then try to figure out the idiom from there. And what you just did there in Tyndale is interesting because it was very translative, literal, as opposed to interpretive.
Well, that's why I think Christians should avoid paraphrastics entirely. Let me rephrase that. When you're teaching as a Christian teacher,
Yes.
never use a paraphrastic as your primary method and source.
Well, I would say you are correct, and I would expand that to you should never use any kind of a paraphrase as your primary source.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
I agree.
if you have exhausted, pick a translation. I prefer King James, but others that's difficult, but that's okay. Pick something that is preferred to be a formal equivalent.
Webster's, Young's is okay. There's a bunch.
But well, that's a literal, even though it's a little closer to a formal rather than a literal. But anyway, pick a formal equivalent, study it thoroughly, exhaust what you can get from it, then go to a dynamic equivalent. So, if you're not familiar with those terms, anybody not familiar with those terms? Dynamic equivalent, formal equivalent, do you know what those are?
Can you explain both?
All right. There's 5 kinds of Bibles, by the way, 5 types of translations. The first one is called a formal equivalent. The common phrase would be it's a word-for-word translation.
Of course.
So it is whatever that foreign language word was, you find the equivalent English word and you translate it. Then you rearrange it so that it makes sense in the English, because the English grammar order is not the same as Hebrew or Greek grammar order.
That's true.
Matter of fact, all 3 languages are very different from each other. So I prefer to have a formal equivalent as my primary source. Is that the right thing to do? Maybe, maybe not. But I prefer to start there. Then I will consult, actually I'm going to go back to the original and consult it that way, but if you don't have that, the secondary form is a dynamic equivalent. That is a thought for thought. So a formal equivalent is the New American Standard, the King James Version. You mentioned a Webster's. There's a couple of others out there that are formal equivalents. The dynamic equivalents, there are several of them, but instead of a word-for-word translation, you can actually get yourself in a tight spot by not knowing the idiom, not understanding the nature, whether it is in the Greek or the Hebrew, not understanding the nature underneath that. So you can get yourself in a tight spot. If you're going to translate something from English to Chinese, how would you translate this phrase? She's in a bit of a pickle.
Well, you got to go into the rules of Mandarin first, understand what the rules are there, and then try to translate what was in English to
Into Mandarin, okay. But understand this.
Okay.
She's in a bit of a pickle is an American idiom. It's cultural to America.
So I think it would be hard for someone to,
Almost impossible
yeah. So it's kind of
as
like,
a formal
it's
equivalent.
kind of like the idiom where Jesus says, "Where I do not know when I'm gonna come," because people they'll take that idiom and say like, "Oh, he doesn't know when he's gonna come."
They'll take
And,
it
like,
literally, as
Yeah.
opposed to the colloquialism.
Right,
there. He wasn't saying he didn't know.
right.
He was saying,
Like-
that's the father's, I'm coming back for the bridegroom. I'm the bridegroom coming back for the bride. You talk to the father. That was what the bridegroom would say. Even if he knew the date.
And even, I'm going to dispute that a little bit. In the case of Jesus, that he is 100% man, that Philippians 2 says that he self-limited himself not to act in his authority and ability as God. He suppressed that
that's good. Yeah.
so that he then did not have all the knowledge except what the Father gave to him. When he was in his resurrected form, he is no longer self-limiting himself in his deity. He then does know. So I will refute it at that, from that perspective.
We'll have to debate that.
Yes.
I-
Yes. Yeah, that is something to be debated. Yes.
That's interesting.
It's a
Yeah.
fun one.
Yes. So, verse 7. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. Notice this phrase. Oops, I don't have it on the screen. For I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. What's that about?
Scatter them in Jacob. No, divide them in Jacob. Scatter them in Israel.
What is that about?
If
What's
someone
going
can't
on
cause
there?
some trouble anymore. You guys,
Well, that's true. That's true. But what is that about? This is prophetic.
But that
It's their position in the land.
Okay. Tell me about their position in the land. Who are these two guys?
Yeah.
Simeon Levi.
Simeon and Levi.
Yeah.
One of them will never be adjacent to the other.
Well,
Levi.
actually, Levi
Levi?
does end up with
He has
a one of the cities of refuge is in the area of Simeon.
That's true.
Still scattered.
So what does it mean? What happened to Levi? What was in his inheritance in the land?
Was it the priesthood, right?
He's the priest. That is the priesthood, right?
Oh, you're referring to the split between Israel, the north, and Judah, the south.
No.
You doing? 'Cause
No. No, that is not where I'm going with this.
it would fit.
Okay.
Where are you going?
Israel did not inherit land, they inherited cities scattered across all of Israel.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because you go to like Joshua. Remember how God told Joshua to tell his people to get the land of the Canaanites, and they refused to do so.
Right?
Yeah, that's
So now consider about Simeon. Where did he end up? Where is his inheritance?
oh, I forgot.
Right smack dab in the middle of Judah. Judah completely encircled him, and that tribe virtually disappeared, being sucked into Judah.
So Simeon basically had no choice but to serve Judah in this sense. Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. So that's what he's saying here. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. And in fact, Simeon virtually disappears and Levi is only ever in the cities. That is their inheritance, is the cities. And specifically the 6 cities of refuge. That's their inheritance.
Yes.
Now, they got the immediate land around the city. They could run their animals out there. They could do a little bit of farming, but they did not have an inheritance of the land.
No.
They didn't have a territory. Look at verse 8. Push that to the top. Judah, you are he whom the brethren shall praise. Who is Judah?
Fourth.
The fourth. Your hand shall be in the neck of your enemies. What is that? What does that mean?
He's going to be the ruler of the army.
That is correct. He will be the ruler of the army. He's the one who will be the one who conquers the enemies. It will be through Judah that the enemies will be conquered. What's interesting is, who is the first king in Israel?
Benjamin by Saul.
Say again?
Saul.
Saul of Benjamin, not of Judah. What's up with that?
Consistent defeat until a son of Judah is brought in.
The people wanted a king. God wasn't ready to give them David. The people wanted a king. God said, okay,
I agree.
you want a king? Here he is, knowing full well not only who Saul would be, but what Saul would be. Although, to Saul's credit, he virtually annihilated the Philistines. He made many campaigns against the Philistines. And he was actually killed in battle.
Yeah, fell on the sword.
I was going to say, it only took off after David joined the ranks. And so God was always blessing the military might of Israel through Judah. And until then, he had mixed / no success.
Correct.
And it was only when Judah was present that things changed.
Right.
But that's also prophetic too, because Isaiah goes into that theme of Judah and talks about how Judah is supposed to be technically delivered.
The deliverer
Yeah,
will come from. And it's also here.
Yeah.
We'll see that here. So your father's children shall bow down to you. He will be the leader of Israel. Verse 9. Judah is a lion's whelp. What is a whelp?
Small animal.
A small animal, a young lion. So Judah himself is the beginning. He's young. From the prey, my son, you are gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion. And as an old lion, who will rouse him up? By the way, there's some interesting things about lions. Not lions as in me. It's spelled differently. The male lion does not do the hunting.
female does.
The female lions
Lioness.
actually do the killing. They are the ones, and the way that it works is they work together. The male lion gets on one side of the herd they're fixing to attack, and the female lionesses are on the other side of the herd. And they're crouching down in the bushes, in the tall grass. The male lion lets out a huge roar, which sparks fear in the animals. And they run away right into the lionesses. And the lionesses take down the actual animals. And then the lion, the male, comes in behind. He actually eats second, by the way. But that's how it's done. And there's similar here is Judah, the lion's whelp. He's a young guy. He's just getting started. He's the beginning of the tribe. but the tribe itself will be the one who goes out. It will be the one who is prevailing in battle. He is the leader of the tribe, of all the tribes of Israel. But look at verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah. That's back to the reference you mentioned in Isaiah. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. Who is Shiloh?
Man, you just told me about that. I forgot. You told me about this last
It's
week.
Messiah.
It is. It is Messiah. That is correct.
Oracle. It's Messiah.
Yeah. I just wanted somebody to say it.
Messiah.
Okay.
awesome.
Oh, he said it. See? All right. And unto him shall the gathering of my people be, or of the people be. So, God did allow Saul because the people wanted a king. Not because God was ready. David wasn't ready when Saul was made king. I'm not even sure that David was born. May have been. He was a teenager at the time of Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little bit into Saul's reign. So he may have been a young child. David may have been a young child. It's hard to say. Notice what he continues here. Says, binding his foal unto a vine, and his ass's colt unto a choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, his clothes in the blood of grapes. What in the world is that talking about?
Well, that whole verse is the suffering servant transforming to the conquering king. You've got binding his foal unto the vine. I mean, you've got he is the vine. And coming in, you'll know him by what he rides in.
Yeah.
But then, after we kill him, he comes back. Trample the winepress.
Yep. Look at verse 12. His eyes shall be red like wine, his teeth white like milk. Now you got to get a little bit here on this, because the red like wine, the word is translated like wine, but it's unless you know what that means, it's red in comparison to wine, not his eyes. What is it about red eyes? What do you get as an imagery from red eyes? Wrath. That is correct. And so you have this image of wrath here that is compared to the staining of a grape onto something, it would turn it red. So you've got this comparison going on here to wrath. What about the white teeth? Like milk. Again, it's the same word. It is the same me or me, M-I-Y or M-E. It's a little bit difference in the tense, but it's the same word. It's compared to milk. In other words, what is milk? What is its function? What is its purpose? Sustenance.
I was going to say,
What's that?
I was going to say lubricant for landing.
Well, lubricant for landing gears, they could use that. However, in those days, they didn't know very much about landing gears.
That word for red is shakli, which it's, in reference to eyes, the cultural connotation was darkly flashing. Like it was clear. It was right.
Yeah, it's wrath. It's wrath. That's the whole connotation here is wrath. But notice what we're doing. We're taking Jewish idioms and we are using them not translatively, but we're using them interpretively.
You know what's so interesting about that verse is you see the holiness of God in the eyes that have wrath. What he sees is holy, but what he speaks is nurturing.
Very good. I did not see that, but I can see that.
The word milk in some connotations can refer to sucking. In some
Yes, it can.
Kalab can refer to suckling. So it's almost like from his mouth we get richness of nurturing.
Right. But again, the word there is mehalab, and that is compared to, like.
You and I are reading out of two different roots. That's interesting. You and I need to come on that. Because halab, I only have halab. I don't have mehalab. I have halab. That is interesting.
Let me see if I can just kind of push this over, and then let's take a look at it.
The me modifier, I don't have that.
So we have here, where are we at? I haven't scrolled this to verse
Is this based
12.
out of the Leningrad?
So we have here verse 12. This is KJV, but this right here,
Mehalab.
mehalab, and it's the preposition that you're missing.
Yeah.
And that's the preposition for like or compared to.
You see, here it's inferring that it's an inferred preposition. I'm gonna go and look at that.
Yeah. But it's this letter right here, meh. Those are the sound, and this is the letter M.
Meh.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that is the letter H, ha, la, ab. Okay? The verse 13 now. We've looked here at Jacob's blessing on his son Judah. Now let's look at Zebulun, and we're going to spend a little bit of time here because of what it says here and the way people draw the maps of Israel. We're going to spend some time here. So, verse 13, Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea. I need to show you a map. Let me bring up a map of...
Does someone know the Dora tune per map?
So, let's see here.
It's for the best.
That might be a good choice here. Let me see if I can push this one across. Whoops, it did not go across. Why did that not go across?
That's you.
Let me try it again. See if I can get this to come across. Get my mouse. If I cross the boundary with my mouse, it'll...
Good boy. Let's get it across quickly. We have a racist map named Ryan at this point. This table. Gotta stop.
All right, I got it over here far enough.
When you get the
F11. Now, notice here Naphtali and Asher and Zebulun and Issachar. Where is Zebulun?
Right in the
Landlocked. What does this say? Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea.
is this
What's up with that?
is this one? What is it? No.
he shall be for a haven of ships. His border shall be unto Zidon. Where is Zidon? Whoops. Zidon is right up there. Sidon. What's up with that?
But he's like way down there.
My question is, what happened during Joshua's time where they told to go there and didn't?
They did go where they were told.
Really?
This is the issue. Because Jacob does specify that he's going to be not landlocked. In fact, if you go to Josephus, he's got borders both on the Mediterranean and Galilee. Not here. His border is here to here. So what's going on here? When you go to Joshua and you look it up, the descriptions of the boundaries are lost to history. And the guys that do these maps, and they all seem to be on the same page, now they move it around here and there, all have them landlocked. But he's not.
Even by Josephus's.
Jesus' witness. He walked along the side of the Sea of Galilee in Zebulun.
So this is the problem with scholarship.
Yes.
It's human.
Uh-huh.
Trust the experts. No, thank you.
Right.
I've known too many experts. And it's
Well-
too much of their work.
Yes, but you do understand the definition of an expert.
Well, a spurt is a drip under pressure, and an X is a has-been.
It formerly was a leaky faucet, now it's just a drip.
Yep.
In his heyday, maybe he knew something, maybe he didn't.
But now he's just dripping.
I agree. I agree with you. I do not trust. That's why I will not start with commentaries. They will lead you astray. Don't go there. Are they of value? Yes, there's some value in commentaries. Study your actual formal equivalent. Study your dynamic equivalent so that you get the idioms brought across the best as possible. Start with the formal equivalent. Know the formal equivalent. Understand the formal equivalent. Go to the one who's going to try to give you an interpretive effort to the idioms so you can begin to see a contrast. Go then to a literal. Once you've gone to the literal, then consult a paraphrase. Because sometimes they're going to have an overarching picture of what's going on so you can get the bigger picture 50,000-foot level. That's all it's good for.
Well, just watch out for those. I've been in studies where I won't say where or which church. Someone was leading a study out of a paraphrastic, and afterward I brought them over and I said, "Here's the Greek." Paul did not say that. Like, Paul literally did not say what this paraphrastic said.
Right.
Whoever wrote this, yeah.
So,
reading
again,
out of-
use it as an overarching, big picture only. It is not accurate as a translation. It is, at most, accurate to show you the big picture, and that's it.
Someone's opinion of the big picture.
Correct. It is someone's opinion of the big picture, and it is actually a commentary.
When you use it that way, it's fine.
Once you have understood what it says in an actual formal equivalent, you've begun to see the differences with a dynamic equivalent. You've looked at the literal, because the literal is important. The literal tells you word order. Word order in English is not near as important as word order in the Greek or the Hebrew. They stress things by word order. So you go to a literal to find out what the word order is. Now, once you've established the word order in something, and you've got a good understanding of what it says, and you've studied through and you begin to grasp what it means, then and only then can you go in and consult a 2 or 3 or 4 commentaries which will disagree with each other. You cannot trust a commentary, but they will have nuggets hidden within them, and you'll look at this and you go, where did they get that? Oh wait, I didn't notice this. Now that actually makes sense to what's over here. Let me go study that, and you'll find a nugget.
Commentaries help you to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
They provide a lot of questions for you to go find answers to.
Correct. Do not start at a commentary. Never, ever, under any circumstances, start at a commentary. You will get led astray. You will get off in left field. Now, what time is it? In a few minutes, I'm going to demonstrate that to you guys. Okay? I'm going to brainwash you. And you're going to keep your mouth shut.
Yes, sir.
You hadn't told anybody, have you?
My dad.
Then he's going to keep his mouth shut. Right. But I'm going to brainwash you guys. You may know it.
MK Ultra.
Highly doubt it.
Huh?
Highly doubt it.
Yeah. So I'm going to brainwash you guys, and then I'm going to unbrainwash you. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to brainwash. And that's what a commentary will do, is it will brainwash you, except it will not give you the key to unlock the brainwashing. I'm going to give you the key this time, but a commentary won't. That's why you need to study first. You need to thoroughly understand first. Don't ever look at a commentary until you thoroughly understand. And this is one of the issues that you run into. You have Zebulun here, a commentary. That's what this effectively is. Zebulun is landlocked, but Zebulun is not landlocked. Verse 13, Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and shall be for a haven of ships, and his borders shall be Zidon.
Yeah, so he should be like at least on the other part.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the word here for border, you got to look that up and study that a little bit more. It actually just means Zidon's going to be to the north. It does not preclude Asher from being in between. Does not preclude that.
What?
What's that?
Oh, yeah.
I said, I bet he was happy about that. It means happy.
So let's break down here on verse 13. The 6th, I'm glad that one went past me. I'm not going to go back in and study it. Zebulun, the 6th son of Leah, that was her last son. And it's the 10th son of Jacob. He is the last of that, all of the struggle that's gone on between Leah and Rachel. Rachel to this point is still barren. She has 2 vicarious sons through Bilhah, but she has none of her own sons. Leah has 6 direct sons and 2 vicarious sons. So Zebulun is Leah's last son. Now, their sister is born after that, so there's one more child, Dinah. But that's who this guy is. He is the 10th son. And so Jacob's right here tells that he's not going to be landlocked. He is not. And again, Josephus describes both the Mediterranean and the Sea of Galilee as Zebulun's borders. Jesus walked on the shores of Galilee of Zebulun. So the Bible disagrees with this. And again, the reason the errors exist is because the markers that are laid out in Joshua are lost to history. A few of them might be around, but the majority of them are lost to history. And so they're guessing where those might be, and that's where you got this from. And one scholar grabs it, and 10 others read it and go, oh, that must be the way it is, and then rewrite it the same thing, and they don't do their own research.
Probably was tired.
It's one of the problems with, it's one of the other problems with the commentators, is they're commentating on the commentaries that others have written.
So who's commentating on the commentaries who
Yes, and it's about 5 layers deep like that.
Okay.
Well, that's how we got the myth that I believed about the woman and the son myth out of Babylon. Very recently, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Scholarship's terrible.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
The two Babylons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Same thing.
Yep. Well, we find out from the scripture, Jesus walked in Zebulun on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and we find out from a historian, Josephus, of the time, while the boundaries would have still existed, Zebulun, and find that ain't true, that in fact the scripture is true. Okay? Look at verse 14 and 15. Time is it? We're going to go through that. We're going to stop at the end of 15. We're not going to pick up 16, so I can brainwash y'all. You want to be brainwashed today, don't you?
Nah, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. It's like it's like taking a swab and running it back and forth through your ears. Doesn't that sound fun?
Sorry, that's basically.
No, it's actually painless.
My detection.
Yeah. So verse 14, Issachar. I did not write down. I think Issachar is the 9th son. I didn't write it down here. My bad. So Issachar is a strong ass, a strong donkey, crouching down between 2 burdens. Think saddlebags, because that's the way they traveled. Mm-hmm. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Notice what Jacob is saying here of Issachar. Issachar is strong, means strong bones, big bones, strong bones. But he decides to rest under the weight. He decides to crouch down, and then he found out that, resting is good. And he became lazy. And if you look back through the Old Testament, Issachar is virtually unknown. Throughout the history in the Old Testament, Issachar is virtually unknown. We find in Joshua that he was unable to push out the Canaanites in his area. Matter of fact, he finally put them to tribute. But lazy. All right, we're going to stop right here. It's time to be brainwashed. According to that clock, I've got 6 minutes to brainwash you. It'll take me 2 seconds. So, 2 seconds. All right? Are you ready? I'm going to tell you a story. And in the process of telling you the story, I'm going to, at the end of it, ask you 2 questions. If you know the answer, don't blurt it out. Say, I know the answer. Okay? That's as much as you should say. If you don't know the answer, for those who don't get the answer, I'm going to tell you the story again. Only this time, I'm going to add one piece of information that will help with the answer. But the same story. And we'll again see if you can get the answer. Now, you actually might know this because of where I got it from. But don't say anything and accept that, yeah, I've heard that. All right. Are we ready? Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. There was a man who left home jogging. He jogged a little while and turned left. He jogged a little while and turned left. He jogged a little while and turned left and jogged back home. When he got home, he was met by two masked men. First question, why did he leave home jogging? Second question, who were the two masked men? Does anybody? I mean, Daniel knows because he's heard me tell him. You have? You've heard it before. You've heard it before. Do you know what it's about? Does it make sense to you? All right. Let me see if I can clear this up a little bit for you. I'm going to tell you the story again. Only this time I'm going to add one detail. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
There was a man who left home jogging. He jogged a little while and turned left. Now, it's important that he turned left. He jogged a little while and turned left. He jogged a little while and turned left, and he jogged back home. When he got home, there were two masked men there to meet him. Question 1, why did he leave home jogging? Question 2, who were the two masked men? And I assure you, there is every piece of information you need in that story to answer those two questions. So you've been successfully brainwashed. You ready to get unbrainwashed?
You bet.
It's actually a little cool thing to hear, to feel the unbrainwashing. Okay, you ready? There was a man who left home plate jogging. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So, why did he leave home jogging?
He just hit a home run.
He just hit a home run.
Yeah.
And who were the two masked men?
Umpire and catch.
Catcher and the umpire. I had you in the first 2 seconds when I said he left home, you thought of house. And once you thought of house, you were stuck. It is virtually impossible to get unstuck unless there is a key to unlock it. Don't start with a commentary. You will get brainwashed. And you won't have the key to unlock it. It will take you days to months to years to unlock the mystery of your brainwashing.
Covenant. And that's why I say stay away from theology. When I say that, you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Get away from Catholicism, get away from Baptists, get away from Methodists, just go right to the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Go right to the Bible. Ditch your presuppositions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's a whole other conversation. But ditch the presuppositions and it'll serve you very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't take the presuppositions to the Bible.
Correct. Use them to ask questions. Is this presupposition true?
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, we didn't get as far as I had hoped. We only got halfway through chapter 49, but I did have to brainwash you. I'd brainwashed him a couple of months ago. That's why I told him to be quiet. And I'd forgotten that I'd brainwashed him in the past, and I knew you knew Hovind,
Yeah.
and this is his story. I stole it from him.
I didn't even hear it from Hovind. I heard it as a child,
Okay,
as a small child.
You've done it in this class towards the beginning.
I may have.
I remember Charlie chewed the baseball diamond, and then that's what I read.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I've changed it. I don't have to draw that picture. I can just say home plate.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the key to unlock the brainwashing. Don't be brainwashed. Don't go to commentaries.
Unless it's from comments.
Unless what?
Huh? I just made a joke.
It was bad.
Okay, we don't repeat them then.
Stretch.
Any last questions so far? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We need to pray. We need to be done. We've got about 6 more kids to talk about next week.
They're excited.
They're excited about something.
Is that Maggie?
Is that a doggy?
Is that Maggie?
Yep.
Let's pray so we can be dismissed. Father, again, thank you. Thank you for this time that we can stay here together and look into your word and see the things that you have written and begin to discover how we can study it, how we can know. Father, I pray that as we study, your Holy Spirit, as you have promised, will teach us all things. Lord, we know that this is not a 1 or 2 day venture, but a lifelong pursuit of you. Father, guide us to that end. Teach us to be the one who studies to show themselves approved unto God, that we need not be ashamed in the work that you have set us to. Father, guide us, direct us, but especially draw us every day to be more and more like Jesus. We ask this now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir.